Chapter 4, Mishnah 8. Biblically, the mitzvah of Challah applies only in Eretz Yisrael, and only when most of the Jewish people are living there. However, the rabbis required that Challah be separated even nowadays, and even outside of Eretz Yisrael. Nevertheless, different areas have different laws based on the following. When Joshua conquered Eretz Yisrael after the exodus from Egypt, he sanctified the lands that he conquered. However, this sanctification ended when the first temple was destroyed and the Jews were exiled to Babylonia. 70 years later, the Babylonian exiles returned to Eretz Yisrael under the leadership of Ezra. They reconquered much, but not all, of the land and sanctified their areas of conquest. This second sanctification, according to the view that will be followed in this Mishnah, remains in effect even today. There are thus three regions regarding Challah. A. The areas sanctified by Joshua and re-sanctified by Ezra, which are still holy today. B. The areas sanctified only by Joshua, which were holy until the first temple was destroyed, but are no longer holy. C. Lands that were conquered neither by Joshua nor by Ezra and were thus never holy. The Mishnah describes how Challah is separated in each region. We now turn to the words of the Mishnah. Rabban Gamliel says there are three regions with respect to the laws of Challah. The first region, the part of Eretz Yisrael re-sanctified by Ezra, which is still holy today. In the area of Eretz Yisrael until the city of Keziv, one portion of Challah is separated, which is given to a Kohen, and is eaten by him or an eligible member of his household, while he or she is tahor. The second region, which was conquered and sanctified by Joshua, but not by Ezra, in the area of Keziv eastward until the river, and from Keziv westward until the mountains of Amanah, which was originally part of Eretz Yisrael, but not conquered by Ezra. Two Challah portions are separated. One is to be burned in the fire, since this area is tamei from the tumah of the lands outside Eretz Yisrael, and one is to be given to the Kohen, so that the people should understand that the one is burned in the fire is burned because of tumah. The one burned in the fire must have a minimum measure, while the one of the Kohen has no minimal minimum measure. The third region was never conquered, and was thus never part of Eretz Yisrael. From the riverbank and from the foot of Amanah mountains inward towards the river eastward and towards the mountains westward, that is, the entire area from the riverbank into the river and beyond, and from the foot of the mountains into the mountains and beyond, two Challah portions are separated. One is to be burned in the fire, since this area is tamei from the tumah of lands outside Eretz Yisrael, and one is to be given to the Kohen, so that the law that Challah is given to a Kohen not be forgotten. The one burned in the fire has no minimum measure, while the one of the Kohen must have a minimum measure. The Mishnah presents a situation where a single portion suffices in this third region, but a Kohen or member of his household who is a tevul yom may eat the Challah that otherwise would have been burned in the fire. That is, we must burn the first portion of Challah and give a second portion to the Kohen only when there is no Kohen available who has immersed to purify himself from a bodily emission. If a Kohen who has immersed is present, the portion that would have been burned is given to him to eat, and there is no need to separate a second portion. The Mishnah presents a more lenient view. Rabbi Yossi says he does not need to have immersed in order to eat Challah outside of Eretz Yisrael. The Mishnah returns to the Tanakama's position. Challah, separated outside Eretz Yisrael, i.e. the portion that is separated to be burned, is forbidden to a Kohen or a member of his household who is a Zav, Zava, Nida, or a woman who has given birth. Therefore, if the only available Kohanim or members of their household are tamei with such types of tumah, two portions of Challah must be set aside. One portion is burned, and the other portion may be eaten even by Kohanim who are tamei, with such types of tumah. Challah of Eretz Yisrael is subject to a number of restrictions. A Kohen may not eat Challah of Eretz Yisrael on a table where a non-Kohen is eating, out of concern that the non-Kohen may end up eating the Challah. It is also forbidden to give the Challah of Eretz Yisrael to a Kohen who is not careful to observe the practice of eating chulin, only under conditions of tahara. This is due to the concern that he might be careless with the Challah and allow it to become tamei. The Mishnah explains that these prohibitions do not apply to the Kohen's portion of Challah outside Eretz Yisrael. We now return to the words of the Mishnah. It may be eaten by a Kohen along with the non-Kohen at one table. The rabbis did not forbid this due to the concern that the non-Kohen may eat the Challah. And it may be given to any Kohen, even the one who is not careful to eat chulin, only under conditions of tahara.